Yes, welcome to the Make Ready podcast, another episode of the Coach's Corner with Adam Glover and myself, Daniel Tindall. How you doing, dude?
I'm feeling good, man. It's a good morning to be doing this. I'm glad we're getting on the call and having a good podcast.
Good. You caffeined up?
Yes, it's quickly caffeined up though. Do you know when you take it on board, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's been a good morning here. Beautiful sunrise, family, breakfast time, and then
That sunrise.
coming
Oh,
in. Stunning, stunning. How's your week been, dude?
bit of a roller coaster, I think it's very easy to become monochromatic with your life and be like, yes, it's good, it's all right, because like that social acceptance. How you doing, mate? Yeah, I'm good. Like that whole thing. Well, actually, for me, it's been up and down. We've had good parts of like, yeah, this is awesome, let's go. Bad parts where I'm like got in my own head. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a life event where we had to lose one of our family pets this week, and my daughter, and how that kind of impacted her was a bit of a navigating task, if that makes sense. So it kind of took a bit of bandwidth that I wasn't expecting. But yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster week. What about you?
Yeah, likewise, man. Likewise. Yeah, I've been a bit funky this week. Been a bit off. I think roller coaster. Yeah, some good bits, some great conversations, some just beautiful points of being present, and but with a big undertone of I think overwhelm. We're expecting another baby within the next couple of weeks. Due dates, a week and a half away. I'm in this position. I'm self-employed, so I'm trying to get do as much work before the baby arrives, so I can afford to take time off. And that's somewhat stressful. We've just got a job that I want to do next week, but the baby's dropped. We're like, oh, I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to do it, but
Dude, like you're a week and a half away from a powerful change, man.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be a big change. We're going from one to two, and everyone I know with more than one child says it's difficult. And they've said it's more difficult than going from 0 to 1. I'm like, oh, fantastic. But I'm excited. I'm very grateful that is happening. So yeah, I'm all right. This morning, beautiful sunrise. I'm all right, and that kind of leads into this episode. That is the topic I want to unpack is emotional intelligence. For the listeners who have tuned in for the previous one, we've tackled health and fitness. We've tackled mindset in these coaching corner episodes, and we're now tackling one of our other pillars is emotional intelligence. And it was my intention just to go through these pillars so listeners can get to know the ethos of Make Ready and what our lens of personal development is. So emotional intelligence is a really, really important one, which impacts all of our lives. And Daniel Goleman did a book on it, and he's got 5 sort of areas of emotional intelligence that he addresses, which is self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, social skills. And I think one of the ones, or the two predominant ones that we talk about a lot, is sort of the awareness aspect, and self-regulation, which is why we do these check-ins in the Brotherhood.
I think when you talk about like the self-awareness and self-regulation side of things, the way I view EQ or emotional intelligence, it's like it's the corner. It's not even. I know the cornerstone is the important stone, right? But it's to me like you can't have anything else with emotional intelligence if you are not self-aware, because it starts from inside you, in a sense. Like emotional intelligence of why someone else is acting a certain way is just judgment, but emotional intelligence of understanding why you are acting a certain way or reacting, however you want to think about it. I think that is the sheer, I don't know how to make it, but it is the cornerstone, it is the bedrock, it is everything that you build from, that you build emotional intelligence from, because self-awareness is such a, I think, and I think it's so overused in such the wrong context in today's world. But it comes from a place of, do you know your own mind?
Yeah. How how do you think that's sort of used in the wrong context or overused?
I think people use it as a, oh, look how emotionally intelligent I am. Like it becomes an ego thing. It becomes a, I get to talk about how smart I am because I'm aware that either you are acting that way because you're doing X, Y, and Z, and you feel because your anger or your disappointment or your joy or your fear or whatever it may be, or your sadness. Where I think people use it as like a, look at me, I'm emotionally intelligent. Can we please just, that's not what it's about. To me, it's not what it's about anyway. For me, emotional intelligence is being able to look at myself and go, do I understand why I'm acting that way? Can I not control? I think there's an element here of trying to control every emotion is like trying to put a lid on a box of stuff that doesn't want to get a lid box on a lid on it. Sorry, but when we look at what I perceive to be emotional intelligence and EQ and all those things, I often see it as a, the world will put this like, oh, buzzword. It's like productivity. You know, it's like, oh, it's emotional intelligence. Like, it's emotional intelligence. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know whether it's hijacked a lot for another meaning. And I prefer to be much more insular with EQ rather than focusing on other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think with all of these things, and especially personal development, are you using it as a way of improving yourself and how you show up to the world, or do you just want a little badge to say you're special and you're doing the work and you're like, you get the same, what came up for me as like people who are on like the spiritual path, and it becomes an ego thing. It comes about the accessories and how you wear your hair and I don't know, like the mala beads and stuff like that. And I see it in I see it in the Christian circles as well. It's like it becomes a badge rather than actually embodying what this work means, what it truly means to be emotionally intelligent, what it truly means to be a Buddhist, a Christian, whatever. It's, are you using it just for the ego and the identity piece? Because as we know, we're in live in a world that is full of identity, and it's a very poignant sort of topic at the moment. But that's not truly the work, and actually, it doesn't really matter. It's about who you are, and I always think that comes from the inside. You don't have to scream and shout about it. If you're truly embodied and doing the work, and it's integrated, you are. You don't have to go and show everyone and shout about it. Just do you. So I think that's where and that comes into kind of the social skills element of the emotional intelligence. It's like, cool, I'm self-aware, great, I can self-regulate, awesome, I'm internally motivated, fantastic, I can empathize with other, but I lack the social skills. Therefore, I don't know, it's wildly inappropriate to go and brag about how great I am.
Mm. I think the social skills is something that people massively misjudge. Like they over egg or they under egg. Like they're that extrovert introvert kind of ideology. It's like, well, I'm going to come in, I'm going to take over a room, and that, say a room full of 10 people, then they all start thinking a certain way. Like, well, actually, is this constructive, or is it just you projecting your own like beliefs and like agenda? And I'm not saying agenda isn't like, oh, as in like it's agenda of like they come into a room and they direct that room. And I think the social skills, because and as I'm sure you've seen this throughout your life, is where people will, like those badges, they'll hang on these things and like, oh, I'm going to quote Marcus Aurelius here, or I'm going to do this here, and I'm going to talk about empathy here, and these little sentences they pulled as like statements that are one sentence deep, that they couldn't go any further to understand how it applies to them, because it's cool to sit there and go, oh, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Like, yeah, great, cheers, Marcus. But what does that actually mean to you? Like, at what layer does that apply to your life? And I think when you talk about social skills, the ability to sit quietly and not feel the need to try and take over a room or take over a conversation is far more powerful in the terms of emotional intelligence, because I think it's that quiet confidence of like, I know who I am, rather than, hey, everybody, look at me, this is what I think, says the two people doing a podcast.
Yeah, the irony, the irony. Yeah, and sorry, that's just quick.
Sorry.
That made me laugh. It's good. It's good, and it's true. We can talk about ego in another side, but the social skills is really important one, as you say, and knowing when to be quiet, and that quiet confidence. And it's hard when a lot of the motivational men in the sort of masculinity, personal development space, and so you see it online, in the health and fitness industry. What do they tell coaches to be? Polarizing, be brash, be confident, call out other people. You get people calling each other like it's all this, in my opinion, BS bravado, and actually just being quietly confident is okay. But okay, we can go into why that doesn't really sell on Instagram, because that's a whole nother situation. But in terms of the social dynamics of going into a room, you don't always have to speak, and you don't have to have an opinion, and actually being quiet and gauging the rooms, really, really powerful. And I think it is one of the skills you get from sitting in circle, listening. And it is a skill. It is a practice. Because if you do that enough, and then you go out into the world and listen how people are communicating, they're not really communicating. One person will share a story, the other person will share a similar story, and they're exchanging stories, not acknowledging each other, not trying to understand how that person's feeling about the story or what's coming up for them. It's just story, and they're not really communicating. But through sitting in circle and stuff, you start to listen.
Yeah. It's two people I admire greatly in my life. I've said this same thing in like talks and talk to me personally and stuff like that. Actively listen means to actually listen, not to respond. I took the expletive out. There's usually expletive in the middle of it, and I'm sure you can tell who told me that by the point of where I'm taking the expletive from. But it's people listen to respond. They don't listen to listen. They're like, you could sit there and you could hear someone talk to you, and if I say this now, hopefully some of the audience realise that they do this, because I catch myself doing it every so often. Is I'm formulating my answer of what I want to say next in my head rather than listening to the person, which is so horrible when you think about it. Like, you're talking to me, I'm here, like, yeah. And all in my head, I'm just going, and then I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to say, and I'm going to sound really smart or whatever it may be. And, so it's like, and the circles allow that to happen. You can sit there and everybody's sharing at their own speed, at their own pace, in their own safety, and like how they feel. And when someone starts sharing, and it's something that's deeply personal to them, to me, I'm sat there going, well, you've taken a huge leap to talk in a circle. Because it can be daunting to people, right? The first time they share can be daunting. You've taken a huge leap to share in a circle. I'm going to give you my attention, because I know when I tried to share and I got stuck in my voice and I was like, should I say that thing? Because how does that make me look? I'm going to give you my attention because you deserve it, because your opinion is just as important as everybody else's in this circle. Not, I'm going to step into a room and command it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that links back to self-awareness, right? You become aware of the things that you're doing, and you become aware of this. Oh, I'm not listening. I'm guilty of it too. We all are. So that's the thing, a really important piece, and that goes back to self-awareness, right? We can't have good social skills if we're not very self-aware.
To me, whilst I did say, like, that kind of self-awareness is the cornerstone, they all act like interlinking things that they don't. It's not where one stops, another starts, as they all blur the lines between each thing in each life, each part of your life. Sorry, and that kind of like transition over where self-awareness leads into social skills, because they all kind of connect the dots. And we could sit here now and automatically bring someone to mind who doesn't do this, and you're like, how did that make me feel when that person was acting the way they're acting? And I think this is if you can start to think like this, or start to even query it, you don't have to be like, oh, I'm Zen, I've got everything. But if you can start to query it, you step down a path of EQ of like, okay, maybe I should just pay attention to that, sit with that and think about it. And I think that because they overlap, you then start to see these little golden thread pieces coming through your life, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's all kind of linked, and I understand that, and that's why I think emotional intelligence is probably one of the skills that you're never going to master, but it's worth the journey to kind of to understand and to see how you feel.
Yeah, Daniel Goleman believes it's more important than intelligence, because it's the way in which we build relationships in the world. It's how we show up, and we're relational beings. Everything's about relationships, whether it's personal relationships, business relationships, how we present ourselves to the world, in a world, and also in a world where we're fed so much information that is specifically designed to trigger us, to make us emotionally reactive. We have to be able to self-regulate. We have to be able to self-reflect and critically think. There's that sort of bringing in that mindset piece. Is like, cool, I'm triggered. The self-awareness comes in. What's coming up for me in this moment? The self-regulation. Can I breathe before firing back a comment on social media, or sharing something that might be fake, or and then can I take the time to critically think and be like, is this true? Or by sharing this, who's it serving? I'm outraged at this. Now, by sharing this with my followers and my friends, I'm just bringing this negative. I'm like, hey, I've got negative feelings about this. There you go. I'm going to ruin your day too. And now I've got you all worked up and angry. And also, what message am I sharing? I'm seeing people, especially now at the moment, like sharing more and more stuff to paint like all white people as racist, or all this or all that. And it's like you're specifically fueling a narrative to create more division. Whether or not it's and of course, in that clip, that person's bad, wrong, whatever. But what's happening by sharing it is you're fueling division, and you're also just making all your friends and followers emotionally react too. And it's like, oh, hang on, why am I doing this? Can I just breathe and self-regulate and be like, actually, I don't want to do that. I want to share a different message to the world, hopefully one of unity, one of love, one of faith, one of personal responsibility, not of hate, division. Look how bad the world is. So that comes in massively for, I believe, is the self-regulation piece. That's really important.
Yeah, the self-regulation, I think people think of it as like, this is about me and how I like what I'm allowing to me, and but actually the impact that has on other people is also just as powerful. Like you said there, do I even need to engage with this? Do I need to promote it? Do I need to do X, Y, Z? And the self-regulation of it all becomes it becomes much more about helping people, because you're preserving their state of mind in the sense of the best you can. You're not adding to that bucket. To tell a story, many, many years ago, I was at a mental resilience training thing, and the lead trainer got me up in front of the group that it was about 100 people, and he made me hold a bucket just out of my hands like that. He made me hold this bucket, and then so he talked to me about my life. He's like, okay, and he just put things in the bucket, weight things, and it's like, it's pretty cool. And so he got to the point where it's full. He's like, oh yeah, you good? It's like, yeah. And he continued his presentation. He's just left me there, holding his bucket arms out. And he continued his presentation for 20 minutes. And every so often he'd just be like, "You all right, mate?" Yeah. Just holding. I was like, my arms are getting heavy. My arms are getting heavy. Don't want to look like an idiot. Come on. This is something. And he went, towards the end of it, he's like, "Are you okay? You look like you're struggling." I was like, "Yeah, it's heavy. Of course it's heavy. I've been sat here arms out for 20 minutes." And he went, "Well, why didn't you say something?" I was like, "Well, it's like," he's like, "So what happens now if I had to add one thing?" And it was quite heavy. And I just went, "Whoa." Like, he's like, "There you go." Like, this is the awareness of what you're bringing into your life. Like, if you're doing this, if you're trying to hold a bucket out of all the things you've got going on, and then people are just randomly adding stuff in because they want to be heard, at some point that's going to have an impact. Whether that's your mental health, whether it's you showing up poorly to your family, or not training, not looking after yourself, not eating healthy, turning to destructive behaviours, alcoholism, drugs, smoking, whatever it may be. However I'm not saying individually, do you know what I mean? Like, it's whatever destructive behaviour to that person. So I think it's when you look at that kind of point there of that self-regulation, it's like, do you know enough what is going to be your triggers and tipping points of, like, if I keep taking this on board, there will be an end state of like, oh, this is going to fall off, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I love that. It's a good exercise. And that's, that self-awareness linked with that, with, what are you letting into your life? It's so important. I think so many people go through life without stopping to think. And don't get me wrong, I know life's busy. I know it's full of stresses. Like, it's extortionately expensive now for everything. And people are really finding life challenging. But we add to it. It's like, yes, absolutely, all of that, and you then spend all night scrolling. Or, consuming more stuff that stresses us out. Even the personal development game can be a trap. Listening to this podcast can be a trap. Because you're filling your mind the time when you might be able to give your mind some respite. You're filling it with more information. And I'm not saying don't listen to the Make Ready podcast. I'm just saying don't listen to other podcasts as much and make time for the ones that you really, really like.
Like it.
Do you like it? Yeah.
If you're going to listen to one podcast, it's this one.
It's this one. But it's true, I spend my day time. My day job is gardening, and I have an option there where I can be really, really present and at peace. What do I spend a good 75% of the time doing? Listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks. But don't get me wrong, I think it's fantastic, and I really think that's a gift to be able to do that, to learn and reflect and stuff. Man, I'm filling my already very, very busy mind full of other busyness and information that I don't necessarily need to consume. Because having that self-awareness on what this stuff, just because some Instagram person says you should do this in your life, reflect, do you need this in your life at this moment in time? And that, is to really understand what's going on for you. As well as, are you making excuses? Because we can do that as well. We can be like, oh no, I need to be gentle on myself at the moment, or whatever. Or do you just need to do the thing? Are you making using the emotional intelligence, like, excuse for taking it easy? But equally, I know a lot of men who thrash themselves and do need to stop doing that. They need to stop training so much and probably just need to sit, go for a walk in nature, do some of the other things, but without the self-awareness. And how do we do that? We need, I think, so important is to have the objectivity in our lives. Have a coach, have a circle of men, have some good friends who can support your self-awareness.
The idea that you need to be able to do all this yourself, and I need to train myself, I need to eat right myself, I need to work at my chosen employment or my chosen passion, I need to have the hobbies, I need to have the family, all this is me. And that's like, here it's like, yes, I am this. I'm here to tell you, no, you're not. Simply not. It is not. It is not feasible to do this without some form of support network. Like whether that, and people hear support network and they think wholly positive things. A support network can be negative, right? We spoke about this in the last podcast about the environment. But when you think about your awareness of what you can and can't do, your limitations, like there are things that you are inherently good at, Daniel. There are things that I am inherently good at. But we also know this isn't my jam. I need to look into the network that I have and go, can you help me with this? Is there something that doesn't make it any worse because you're expecting help or you're asking for help for that matter? But it's your awareness of who you are to go, yeah, this is probably not my thing. I'm probably not as good as that as I am with other things. And I think that when you look at a support network, when you look at a group of people you can rely upon, and rely upon doesn't necessarily mean, to me, rely upon doesn't mean take all my problems, take all my burdens, see you later. It is a shared journey of growth together that allows you as a person to understand a different lens or a different perspective. And I'm not saying you're asking for advice from every single one of those people. But say, for example, you come into a sharing circle in the Brotherhood and you share the thing you're working on at the moment, or whatever it may be. It's like, this, I'm feeling trepidation, I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling positive, whatever it may be. And then somebody else goes into their share a little bit later on, and you're like, oh, I can see myself in those shares. And the awareness to be able to take that in and go, oh. Because then you know that other people are probably doing the same thing in that circle. They're probably thinking the same way. So it isn't, and I think people get this a little bit twisted. It isn't a circle of like, mate, let's solve that problem for you. It's a talk, be heard, and listen, and you might just learn something. And that could change the way you think about something. And I think, but to be able to accept that again, be able to accept that the answer is not going to be put to you on a plate, it also takes a level of intelligence to understand.
Noisy bet that was a pheasant this time. We're recording out in nature, man. We're getting different animals all the time.
They need like notes in the credits, like played by a pheasant.
Yeah. I agree. I think the circle, so I see it both ways as well. I think it's really important to have that sharing space, but it's also important to have men you can seek advice from and be challenged. And that's not in terms of unsolicited advice. It's we can do that by offering. Would you like some feedback on your share? Would you like my opinion or my experience? Would that be helpful? And if the man's open to it, he can listen. So there's the yes. I think by voicing it and hearing other men is incredibly powerful, and it's a great tool for developing self-awareness. Just as I would really recommend stuff like journaling, because often by getting this stuff out your head, you kind of get almost objectivity, especially when you're just kind of freestyling, because everything comes out, and then you'll be like, okay, that's important, that rest was just noise that was in my head and I needed to get out. And also by listening to other people sharing, you see some of yourself in them, and you also sometimes you realize your problems aren't as big as your head made them out to be, and you're like, okay, cool, I don't have to worry about that so much, And on the flip side, having people who can be constructive and support you on a way forwards, because I don't have my opinion, but I have experienced some places as well. There's that balance between having a safe space and having a place to be able to share and explore and be present and feel your feelings. But it can also slip into a really depressing pity party place where people enable each other to not take responsibility, to be miserable and stuff like that. And I always like to frame it as like, you can be depressed, but let's try and have a positive mindset around our depression, which is probably not very PC, but I think in my own experience that really helps. Like when I go through periods of real low points. Luckily I have a lot of mindset development and faith off the bat. There's certain fundamental things I believe that I know are true, like the clouds are going to pass, and it might take weeks, but I know they're going to pass. Therefore I don't wallow, I just accept. And I think there's a difference. I'm low today. I'm feeling pretty numb. Yes, I've got tools and stuff I can try and do. I also know going to the gym, despite how I feel, is going to be a good decision. But I know those clouds are going to pass. And one of my clients the other day said, how do you know when they're going to pass? So you don't. I just know they will. And I know between now and the clouds passing, if I eat right, train right, go outside in nature, and I can do that all feeling really miserable and ungrateful. But I know those clouds are going to shift a lot quicker rather than consuming loads of social media, junk food, not training. So
it's the I think the thing that I pull out from there is, one, your awareness that that time will pass, but two, it doesn't change your output of the things serve you. Like if in those states where in a time where you don't feel as positive, where maybe your outlook's a bit more down, and you're like, ugh. If you were to sit in that and not do any of the things serve you, the clouds would stay far longer, because you'd have to, and then inevitably those habits would break down, the ones that you built up, like eating well. Like I know you've done great work in refining your nutrition this year, and you've done great work in how you show up in regards to training and your impact of that. If you were to let them drop, it would be far harder to get those clouds to move. But because you go, yes, I am accepting of the way I feel right now, this is who I am at this moment, but I'm still going to do the things. I'm still going to get to the gym, or I'm going to train, I'm going to go on a hike, whatever it may be. I'm going to eat well, because I know those are the things that allow the clouds to pass, and then my positive mentality will shine through eventually. Not, woe is me. Everybody needs to understand how upset I am, and I'm just going to sit here and eat Doritos until my eyes bleed. Like that's not going to serve you in any way. And I think, again, when we draw it back to emotional intelligence, that's taking that moment and going, okay, I'm not going to react poorly here. I am going to sit on the foundations of the habits that I've built over months. Now, people could look back at the habits you built over the past year and go, oh my God, how do you do that every day? Simple. Well, one thing at a time. Like, that's it. Even and we use ourselves as like an accountability network of like, this is what I need to do. Okay, cool. We're going to do that then. And there's a little bit of a checkup of like, how are you getting on with that? Did it work? Did it not? And so I just think that there's levels to your mentality, in the sense of, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling low, if you're feeling upset with how things are, it's very different if you were to not bother doing the stuff that serves you, versus I'm going to spend the time I need to do the things that will move those clouds away.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's make it very clear, we're not diminishing like mental health as something that is very real. And when it hits, if it hits, it can be absolutely crippling, where everything goes out the window. Absolutely understand that. And I really do have a lot of empathy for men who are in that. And you might be in that space now. And yeah, just hang in there, because you just got to take it day by day. And I think getting this right support is so important. Therapy, networks, friends, nature, eating right, and everything. I think a lot of what we're speaking to in this moment is, make ready means to be prepared. For me, that's why it's so important that we have these healthy habits, and we work on our mindset, and we have our brotherhood, and we have all of these things in place. Because honestly, this helps me show up and this helps me. Like my mental health's down, and it has been for many years. I used to rely on alcohol. Mainly, I used to rely on alcohol to make me feel better. No, it didn't. That used to damage my mental health even more. But over my years of developing my mindset through martial arts, through this stuff, through challenge, through having a network of men like yourself, Adam, and the men in the Brotherhood and some other close friends, and through the healthy habits of eating well, of training, despite how I feel, that means those up and downs are much shallower. I'm not getting to the depths. And even then, like this week, I spent a good 2-3 days just out, like just not in a good place. But it's cool. And then, because that's why we prepare, is so we've got all these things that we can rely on. We're doing the things. And that's why I believe I can go into a patch, it might be weeks, of incredibly low mood where I just really don't care about much. But because I've put in the work before, and I have these beliefs and these knowings that things shift and change, that helps. So this is why I think the work's so important, because it does protect ourselves from the stuff when it hits the fan. We've got a good toolkit. We've got a good base. We're resilient. We're adaptable. We have faith. We have the men around us.
It's, I think, something you said there about when you look at like the mental health aspect. You are right. It's 100% real. Like I'm not diminishing any of that. I've seen firsthand been part of struggles in that sense, and the power of phases of your life. Where you've this week you said, you know what, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, and then when you view to drag that back over the past 3-4 years, you could argue that there's been lots of that. So when you look at the awareness to it and how you show up to yourself from an emotional perspective, that's only been learned through trial and tribulation. You understand the things that don't serve you because they've not served you. Like, it's that age-old thing of like, tell a child not to put their hand on a hob because it's hot. What are they going to do? They're going to put their hand on the hob because they have to learn for themselves that actually how that hurts. So I think that there is an element here of we sit here and we talk about these things through a lens of learned experience and it's not like, oh, look how experienced we are. It's we've been there. We know what that feels like. We feel what it feels like, and we've come out aside of it. And are we perfect? No, absolutely not. We still do all of the things that can potentially derail us. Like, there are obviously limits to that, but it's when we see when I see specifically when I see other people struggling, and my initial response is to fix the I'll help, and like you have to. So there's also that element, right, of the people you are in a network with who want to stop the pain or stop, help and fix the problem, and so we can all get back to, eating good food, having a laugh, and enjoying ourselves. Still not going to fix it necessarily until the person is ready for that to happen. And I think when we look at your mentality around the things that don't serve you, is something I think everybody can learn from. It's because it's not from a place of you shouldn't do that, it's bad. It's like, hey, this is what happened to me, and this is how I found I dealt with it. And to kind of ring fence that back to EQ, that takes a level of emotional intelligence. To say that person right now doesn't need me to be forthright. You've done it with me specifically, where you've gone, I know, and I'm paraphrasing and guessing here, but in your head you're going, I know this thing doesn't serve Adam. I know this thing needs to go, but I can't force that upon him because it becomes and it's that intelligence to go, don't force it. He'll get there, and lo and behold, here we are, and I get there, and so it becomes this. That's the art of, in my opinion, the art of the brother.
Yeah,
because that becomes the baseline of like, and if you ask for it, great. If you ask for a solution, fantastic. Or if you offer it and I accept, great. But sometimes there's just a case of you need to go on that journey to come out the other side to understand that that's not the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That brings in the empathy, understanding where other people are at, understand what's going on for them or what might be going on for them.
Totally.
That also allows us to be kinder, more understanding of other people. And as hard as that is when people are being absolute douchebags and just being difficult, or it's then what's going on for them, and giving them the benefit of the doubt, and understanding when to give advice, when to challenge, when to just be quiet and listen. But we do that by learning, right? We can't do that alone. We cannot learn these skills by sitting in a room on our own.
Exactly.
And certainly not on social media, because that's just a terrible place for any of this stuff. So yeah, I think, it's incredibly valuable, which is why it's one of the pillars, for Mate Ready, because we really, it impacts everything: your business, your personal life, your friendships, your family, your relationship to self. So I think we'll leave it there.